going on with his hair? The mics? Things are changing. We don't like change.
I hate change, man.
I don't like change, especially when I was in Japan. All you have is change, and I ended up nightly. Don't tell the authorities because this is illegal. Gambling away our change, and it bounced around between every person in the dorm until somebody took it home. The Australian did. Ryan.
Yeah, shout out to Japan, though. They're going through it right now.
Let's not get too political because we play tabletop games to escape the world. But regardless, the death of somebody who has been present in so many people's lives in a country and at least kept it running, and I've heard good things and mixed things. I don't know much. But gun violence, please do not use this as evidence to say, if they had guns, if he had Secret Service, if they could protect themselves, it would be better, Don't use this as, see, even with gun laws, it still happens. It was the second death from a gun this year alone.
And compared to ours,
it is quite different. But I was told by Ryan, in a lighter note, that we would have a show today. I have coffee.
Yeah,
you're drinking in a second. I'm going to turn the air conditioning off while he tells you a story and I listen. Okay. Please.
Yeah, so this is a story and a half, right? So the last couple days, first of all, I guess I should preface this whole story by saying I have a doorbell camera, okay? So I have a camera on my view. What's the viewfinder thing you can look through on your door? Yeah. Because there was a while ago, there was some creepy guy by our apartment that was freaking us out, so we decided to get it just in case. And so it gives us an alert every time somebody comes in to its view. So it says everybody there's someone at your front door. 9 times out of 10, it's just the people next door taking out their dog. So we see them taking their dog all the time. Well, I was just chilling after waking up. I was still waking up and getting ready for the day when I heard some knocking next door. And there's a couple times whenever our neighbor takes out their dog and their partner, boyfriend, whatever, locks the door. I don't know why. But
on them?
Yeah, I don't think he does it intentionally, but he could be. He could be an asshole. Who knows? But he locks the door. And so she has to bang on the door and on the window.
That's crazy.
To get him to open it. And so that's why I figured what was going on. But then I heard yelling. I was like, oh, okay, let me open up. So I open up the live view on my app to see what's going on my front door. And I see 2 police officers standing there.
You locked them out when they were taking their dogs away.
And one of them was banging on the door, yelling the person's name. And the other guy, he was taking it really serious. He was standing, like the doors, here, the front door. There's a little gap where it's just wall, and then there's a window that connects. I would hate to live in that apartment because I would not want to have my windows where people can just easily, see me.
Yeah.
But he was standing in between that gap and creepily leaning over to the window to try to look inside. So I figured there's something serious going on, but they're not breaking down the door. It's not like there's there's murder happening, right? At least that's my assumption. Well, no one opens the door, and so the police officer puts a little notice, something on the handle, and then they both leave pretty quickly. So I go to class a few hours later, and I check the slip, and it says a warrant for your arrest, and it has their name.
God!
Yeah, it has their name on it. So I'm thinking, wait, what are my neighbors up to? What's happening? And so I decided to. So wait a minute.
Wait, hold on. What did you curiosity get piqued? Did you read it?
It's very quick writing. So we could see their name, and I don't want to just stand there and stare at it, but we looked up their name, and I couldn't find it or their public records anywhere.
I guess a short stint. I guess it makes sense. They wouldn't want to say what for in case it gives you more confidence to go up and say, well, maybe they don't know.
Sure. So that's so what my girlfriend pointed out, and I was like, wait a minute, you're right. She said that we have actually gotten a notification from them taking their dog in a while. We usually get at least 3 or 4 a day, and it goes up to 2 a.m. They take their dog out randomly.
They take their dog out a lot. They're respectable people. What else could they possibly do to harm life?
Well, we decided to snoop through our camera footage the last time we saw them, and 3 days ago at 9:30 p.m. they leave. They're leaving. They take the dog. They have a big cage that you see they're putting in their car. And they have a suitcase. It looks like they're moving quickly too. They go in and out twice, grab a bunch of stuff, and then they're gone.
This was after they got the notice.
No, this was before. 2 days before. 2 days prior. It was the last time we saw them on the camera. And then 2 days later is when the police officer shows up.
hell?
Yeah, and then it's the next level. It's funny because you kind of see what humans are like. Our other neighbor and myself and my girlfriend are occasionally, because we're scrolling through the viewfinder, looking at camera stuff. After this notice has been put up, we see them across the way are also like staring at it, and then someone takes a picture of it. Like everyone else everyone's so interested in what's happening. Well, fast forward to last night. Okay, last night I'm just sitting at home preparing notes, doing stuff, doing classwork, and I get a notification there's someone at my door, and I'm like, oh fuck it, I'll see who it is. And there's someone standing in front of their door, someone I don't recognize. She stands there for a second, takes a picture of the notice, moves the doormat, picks up something, which you can only guess is a key, because the next thing she does is open the door and go inside. She's in there for about 5 minutes, comes back out, and leaves. It doesn't look like she has anything, but she just leaves and takes the notice with her. And that's the last thing that
you can't end it there.
So far. That's all I know so far.
And that's the whole episode. You guys find out next time on the next episode.
Assume, and this is the running theory, that they're probably selling drugs out of the apartment.
But
it's the only thing I can think of, because it's not super serious where they're breaking down the apartment or getting the apartment people to let them inside. But it's like they're on the run, and they knew that maybe there's something in the apartment that they needed, or something that they needed to be hidden, and so they had someone go over. And at this day and age, who leaves a key, especially in an apartment complex, just right there for easy access? And my girlfriend pointed out, she said, I don't think I've seen them have a doormat for a while. So they added that recently just to put the key underneath it. I feel like there's like some mastermind stuff going on over there.
This is why true crime podcasts.
I know.
Because this the whole time, I'm like, I gotta fucking know.
It felt like we were in it. She loves true. My girlfriend loves true crime.
God.
It feels like we're in like a true crime podcast thing right now.
Oh, man, for true crime people, and specifically, I've had the opinion seen online on Twitter, wherever people are like, man, you people, I said that a lot, listen to true crime are psychopaths. Listening to the misfortune of others, people getting arrested, like, this is crazy. I'm like, we aren't experiencing it. We're getting to look at it and learn lessons and morbid curiosity. It's fine.
I love it from a psychology perspective.
Yeah. But it's not the real thing. And that's what I want to say, which is similar to what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, today's going to be a little different, kind of like a waffle cast.
A bit. I don't know. I think what we're talking about, like the title, board games, is something that is going to be
tabletop RPG board games.
But tabletop games. Yeah. Taking the RPGs. Some of them still are RPGs, but there are a ton of board games, and one of the kind is an adaptation of something else, which you could see as not the real thing. Little segue there. He's Ryan.
Oh, he's Braxton. Yeah.
This is the Dungeon Crawl. We went to D20 Tavern, I don't know, doxing ourselves. You guys know where we are in existence in general. It's fine. The McElroys say they live in like blank city state.
Blank city state.
It's totally okay. We'll move eventually. Yeah. And then we won't tell you, and we'll erase all of that.
Maybe we'll edit this whole thing out after we think about it. But
maybe
we won't even know what we're talking about right now.
But super cool place. It is pretty much the only.
At least around here. I know there's some that exist in the world, but like it's like a game bar. Arcade, not really an arcade, but like a tabletop.
A place where families can come. There's no limit to enter to drink, of course. Though in where we live,
it's just $5 to get in.
$5 to get in.
Play as many games you
Make
want.
sure you're playing games and buying drinks. Otherwise, that's the whole point to be there. So we want to make sure it's productive.
I guess you could buy shirts.
They really love when buy shirts. I mean, if you think about it, that's a whole like hour and a half of paying somebody who's working there. A single shirt. So like, fuck yeah, buy that stuff. It's super awesome. And Kenneth has been trying really hard to get us to go there.
Loves it.
But Kenneth is a super busy guy. So is Jamie, his girlfriend, partner, and Ryan and I. For me, I have a hard time last minute plans at the end of the day because I'm usually just vegging out. And then Ryan needs plans like way in advance. And I really want to go more with him.
Because of anxiety and because I get busy.
Yeah. So.
But it was super fun. I love it. I love the concept because I love board games. But my biggest issue with board games is the price point. That's going to be something I'll talk about here with some of the ones I picked out. Yeah, price point, because it's so hard to spend, which is funny because I do this for video games all the time, but it's so hard for me to spend $50 to $100 on something I'm not sure if I'll enjoy,
Yeah.
Because you go into a board game like that or a board game shop, you're like, that looks cool. That looks cool. That looks $100, $150. Jesus.
They do get expensive.
That's why I love this place, because you can pay $5 and try it out.
And they have online a catalog of like how easy the game is to get into and all that sort of shit. Because I was like, well, why don't they do that? And of course, Jamie said, oh, they do that. Like, ooh,
yeah, that's very handy.
No, this is a place this is going to be the Dungeon Crawl's cheers.
Hang out.
We're going to go there. We're going to have our regulars sit on the bar corner. We're going to have a sitcom at some point. Would love to work with them in some way, shape, or form, just out of the interest of their business and the excitement for what they're doing. So if there's something that comes up in the future where we do a little YouTube video with them or like respectfully use their space a bit while no, definitely not disrespectfully. Because their thing is they want to make sure that if somebody's there using space, people are spending money.
It's not a big space.
So if we do something, we're going to be drinking.
Yeah, I didn't think I thought there might be another room in the back, but there's not. I think that's just
it's just like the space back there. He said he's going to divide it a bit more, and I think it could be really cool if he.
It'd be cool if there's maybe a group private room you could pay a little extra for.
I guarantee you he's considered it because people could rent that out
for parties or D&D sessions.
And that is guaranteed, even if they don't. I kind of talk to him about that actually.
But they'll be drinking, but they might be drinking too. So
exactly, it's like karaoke, but D&D. Now, it wouldn't be super frequent, but can you think about the dedication and customers that you would have that run long-term campaigns?
If they come,
the consistency that people would do.
The problem is, I don't think the space they have currently has room for all this.
It doesn't at all.
Unless they kick out, because I think my understanding of that, the space that they have in that area has apartments like above it and stuff. So
they could absolutely
kick all of them out.
They could have one space that is like 6 feet by 6 feet.
So in the tattoo shop, they're in a similar area, and they have an upstairs area that I think they have now rented out for just their stuff. Mm-hmm. I know you guys don't give a shit about any of this stuff we're talking about, but it's still.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say before we jump in is if this sounds interesting to you and you've heard where we live before and you're in the area, get in our Discord, hang out for a bit so we make sure that you're not crazy. And then we'd love to recommend y'all to go check it out because it was a super cozy time. If you're a tabletop nerd who's been looking for a place to hang out that isn't just standard go to bar and that sort of crowd, which is for some people, but for me as a tabletop person or a nerd, I'm a little bit of a recluse, so it's nice to go to a place where I know there's a bunch of stuff that I really love.
I'd say definitely look up if there's any in your area. I'm sure there are others that exist.
Yeah, because we're still in a bit of a scare with disease and COVID and stuff that's going on. So please be comfortable and be responsible. But it was really nice to be able to get out. And we got to play board games, which I love.
Yes.
But my biggest gripe with board games, and it is always the thing that they're tackling the most, are the rules and how easy it is to start.
It is, I think, and I agree, Kenneth and I kind of agree with this, is that the best board games, at least in my eyes, the best board games are the ones that are so rewarding once you understand it, but getting into it's the most painful process in the world.
Yes.
It's like, I would say, at least this game, Guildmaster, super tough beginning, but once it clicks, it's like, all right, this is so much fun. I can figure it out. So I think, and Kenneth said this when we were there, at least whenever you're learning a new board game, it's very helpful if at least one person has either played before or understands how to set up and play.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're all very confused.
It can be tough too, because not everybody's a good teacher. And teaching a board game, you need a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Or at least a good way to speak about it. And board games, if you think about it, they're kind of the original Rogue. Like, you start from zero, you get some stuff, you beat the game, and it ends.
Fair, yeah.
Now, in one session, you don't start over and over again. And there probably are board games that have tried to gamify.
Yes, there are.
Roguelikes, which I think would work super, super well. But the issue is that it's physical and it can't be constantly updated. And it's a product that you hold, so it costs more money, like Ryan said. And you can't just update a board game. So it better be damn good out of the start, or else, it's out. It's there.
Get some expansions.
You can.
Or make a second edition, which a lot of ones do. But then the problem is, then stuff from the first edition either doesn't match with the second edition, or like what we've experienced with D&D's newer stuff, or it's such a big change that people aren't interested in it anymore.
Yeah.
Which has definitely happened.
I think
some games.
Place I want to start, and something that most people will resonate with after we explain what a board game is or can be, if that's something that you jotted down.
I did not, but a board game is
game you play on your board. That was not planned at all.
No, it's something you could. I think to me, because there's so many different genres of board games, but the crux of it, and if you played D&D, you're basically playing board games, just sitting around with people that you know or don't know, with some sort of rule set.
Yeah.
And you play. I mean, they're really simple board games. You don't need like a map or like any real set of rules, but except for like Monopoly is pretty easy to get into. Game of Life. I was thinking the Game of Life, Trouble. I mean, if you think about
I love. Sorry is one of my favorites.
Yeah, if you think about the games you grew up on, those are like Kerplunk. That's not. What's it? The one gets stuck in the ice or something.
I know what you're talking about, but I have not played.
I think it's called Kerplunk actually. And then there's ones that where you put like marbles into a tube and you cover it with like a bunch of rods, and each of you, it's kind of like Jenga, and each of you pull out a rod. Jenga. And the ones that has the most, there's so many different genres, but I think the basic shtick, sitting around with people, I'm sure there's some that are solo.
Here's a boundary I want to cast. Is Jenga a board game / card games? Board games.
So, yeah.
Tabletop games and board games. I don't know what we titled this.
There's so many different types of that.
Yes. And
I can guarantee there's probably gonna be a sequel of this podcast at some point, because a lot of the ones that I jotted down that I would like to talk about, I haven't played.
Well,
so I'd love to play a lot of them.
I don't know how often we want to do it, but if we need an episode, I guess it wouldn't be too quick, but we say, Kenneth, we need to go to the bar today, play a game. We want to make an episode. We have no idea what we're going to record. We need another week. Let's go play one and we're going to talk about it.
Well, there's so many that and when I was looking up other board games, like, man, I'd love to play that. Man, I'd love to play that. So there's so many that I didn't even write down. So there's tons of things. And I have it kind of broken up into D&D adjacent, and then just board games. Yeah,
there's a ton. I would still consider every tabletop RPG a board game in a sense as well. It's just really 100%. In depth. It's that game you've got that takes everybody ages to understand. Mm-hmm. And then you can all sit down and have a really good time. It's that satisfactory situation. Yes. Well, we played, what was the first one called? This one's a big
Small
issue.
World.
Small World. What a small game that is. And the owner who came up summarized it for me really well. We were playing it and it wasn't actually that complicated. It's kind of like a territory simulator. Conquer, spread, etc. Yes. There's some rules and where you can go. There's different races on.
I actually saw it when I was looking up other board games. It's apparently very famous, very popular game.
It is simple. It is literally just addition and subtraction.
Yes. The benefit that I saw people why they like it is that there aren't a lot of the variables are your race and your abilities that you get. Everything else, it's very strategic because it just
is your number bigger. You get the space.
Yes.
What does your race do? For me, it was sorcerers, which more locks in my mind.
Which is why people.
Yeah. Oh, that's very true. There's a little bit.
Just the setup.
The super basic gist for it was there's going to be 5 combos you can pick from: a race and a quality. Each race has different stuff. For example, sorcerers, whenever they conquer, or one person, I believe, on that space turns into yours. So you get an extra person, which is great because it allows you to conquer more. And you only need a minimum of like 1 or 2 people to take a territory. When it's your turn, you often pick from a race of a 5 rotating selection of characters. The least liked one is always going to be at the bottom, and it's the least expensive to purchase. If you want the newest one at the top, it's most expensive. That's really it. It's going to be, do I have at least one over everything here in this tile to take it over?
The cool thing to me was the different races.
It was really neat.
To it, and because you can, if you see yourself starting to lose or starting to decline, you can basically kill your race off and then start a new civilization.
It worried me because I felt as though the game probably would go on forever. I didn't see how it ended, and you get points.
It's 5 turns.
5 turns?
Was it 6?
I don't like games
short, but it's also long.
Games that end on turns, just X amount of turns. I don't like.
He said if we understood everything and went through it, he said we could probably do it in 20 minutes. A full game.
It seems really quick. I mean, it's literally, okay, I've got enough. I'm going to take your space, your turn. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to take this one because it's only one. And then
where it gets interesting and competitive is the strategy that goes into
There's definitely some strategy because there is a set board and probably algorithms that you could do and et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of skill. There's a high skill ceiling for games like this. But it wasn't satisfying quickly enough, and we literally stopped playing it.
We didn't finish our first turn, I think. But I think we might play it for real at some point, for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to quit it. It's very interesting because 5th edition D&D, very simple. For people that like a lot of mechanics, it might not be as satisfying, but it does have a lot of reading that comes into play. Typically with tabletop role-playing games, there's a bit of reading, so that's not going to be the biggest draw to turn people off. If so, then you probably won't read anything, or you'll jump into something like Merkborg, because that has a little less rules. Rules light, but not simple or not fun. For 5th edition, I think it really gave me a similar experience to the game that we played when I jumped into Pathfinder, because it's not overly complex, but there's a little bit of strategy, and the combat to me feels simpler because it has mechanics.
Yeah, it's like what's that phrase where it's like wide as an ocean, or you know what I'm saying?
Wide as an ocean, deep as a pond, or something.
I'm thinking it's so for what I'm thinking of Pathfinder and Small World, probably the opposite, where it seems pretty on the surface. I guess Pathfinder maybe less so. On the surface, it's you get your class and stuff, but then as it expands, like okay, there's a lot of different ways I can handle the situation.
So it really made me think of that, and I was like, these are ultimately still just board games.
Yep.
In a sense, and then to contrast it, I've got plenty to say about Hues and Cues, but I've been chatting it up.
Hues and Cues was cute.
So it was one of my favorite board games I've ever played.
So we'll talk about Hues and Cues, because I want to say Small World's maybe probably not D&D adjacent, but we'll save that for my various board games discussion. But so my D&D adjacent ones, I'm going to open with these because I think people listening to the podcast would probably gravitate to those maybe quicker. This one I would say everyone's probably heard of. Well, first, I guess what I would classify as D&D adjacent for me, and I get a little loose with this later, is something that utilizes one of the pillars of D&D.
What would you consider those to be, though?
I think the pillars are exploration, social, and combat, I think is, and I guess combat where I would call it D&D adjacent for a board game would be like a dungeon crawl.
The encounters. Hey, that's us.
And social would be like improv, storytelling, while exploration would be...
A lot of board games will leave that part out.
Exactly. So I only have 3 here, but I know there's more. If you guys have some D&D adjacent, or even some of your favorite board games, please comment them down below. I'd love to check out some new ones. So the 3 I have, and I know D&D has their own board game series, like a Baldur's Gate, Betrayal of Baldur's Gate. They have a couple other ones, but when I looked at those, they didn't tickle D&D inside of me. So I don't know if I would consider those D&D adjacent. But if you like D&D, probably easily gravitate because it's the same lore and stuff, whatever. So the first one, I guarantee everyone's heard about this one, but I might be wrong. Gloomhaven.
Yes.
It's $119. So
Woo!
Yeah, but there's a lot of sick mini. I mean, if you've ever seen the box, it's bigger than these boxes, and these are pretty big boxes. But this is basically if nobody wants to DM, here you go, spend $119, and the DM is the board game itself. It's huge, very expansive, has some very cool miniatures. I've thought about buying it just to check out the miniatures. But to me, I would say you can also inspire a lot of D&D ideas through the story and the world. So from my understanding of it, I've never played it. So my sister's played it a lot. And I keep asking her, how come you don't play D&D? It's because none of them want to DM. So that's why they're playing Gloomhaven.
Surprisingly, there's a lot of DM forever people that I've met.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite issue of what most people have.
But so I kind of talked to her about it, but she said you're basically a wandering adventurer that's exploring through this world. Obviously, you have your party with you. And it's a persistent world that moves through session, kind of like D&D.
That's really cool.
It's a campaign as well. So while whenever you finish it, you finish the story. There are tons of branching paths and different things, kind of like a choose your own adventure book that you can kind of play through, and you could play through it again and choose a different choice. The decisions impact the story, and the combat is not like D&D. It's more like a card game-esque when it comes to the combat rather than dice rolling.
Sidebar: how do you feel about this? Is like really quick sidebar because it's a discussion. Card game mechanics.
I like them if they're done well.
I don't in video games typically because whenever I go to a video game, I want to be able to control and have that depth.
Have you ever played like Slay the Spire and card games
that kind of stuff? It doesn't tickle my fancy. Now, if it was that exact same game in board game form,
interesting.
I'm fine with it. I don't like the form factor being shoved into computer as much. But
so from how I understand the Gloomhaven combat, it's you get these cards, you use them, and then you get like new ones that kind of, and I guess you're kind of like Slay the Spire where you don't know what's coming up and you kind of have to adapt.
That's the fun part, getting to take the anticipation and knowledge away from everybody involved.
Right.
And
you get items and stuff. And I accept that. I've not played it, but I'd love to play it somewhere. There is a $39, $35 version on Steam that you can play. And it's basically the same. So that's how my sister was playing it. She wasn't playing the actual game. She was playing it over Christmas. They would call each other. They had a scheduled time. This was our Gloomhaven night. They'd call each other and play online. So it's definitely a fun option if you don't want anyone to DM. And I know there's like D&D adventures that are DM less. You can play by yourself technically, but this is like
that calendar thing that we shouted out. I think it might have been a Kickstarter episode that we did recently. The calendar, the scroll.
Oh, I'm actually going to talk about it. We have not talked about it on the podcast yet. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the next one I have here for D&D adjacent is Descent: Legends of the Dark. This is
that name gets me.
Yeah, Descent is an older game. This is kind of like being revitalized for the new generation. It's $139, so it's more expensive than Gloomhaven, but it's also gigantic. It's a dungeon crawler type of game. And this is what's interesting to me is that it uses the electronics. So it has an app that you download that helps play the role, quote unquote, of a dungeon master. So it randomizes and changes how the dungeon creates. It's supposed to be very cool, but it's very expensive. Of course. It's got cool minis.
That's kind of genius. Yes, it does put the phone back into players' hands, which can be an issue if they just swipe over and go to a different window. But it gives a use on their phone for like a moment in the night where they have to use it for the game.
Well, it makes it, like you were saying before, because the problem with board games is, in theory, eventually the randomness will go away. If you play it enough, you'll get all the similar stuff. And like even this one, I'll talk about this one later, Eldritch Horror. Eventually, you'll hit all the things. You'll get the same card for the same event multiple times. Like, all right, I know what's going to happen here. I'm sure that happens in this one too, but I imagine because online, they can A, add stuff to it, and B, it can be more expansive than like a 40 card set that you can get here.
Okay, I'm identifying these so it keeps myself on track. Another sidebar relevant to this. What could you put digitally
for D&D?
For a board game like this? Yes. Before it starts feeling like, why isn't this just a video game on the computer entirely? Like, why do we even have the physical portion?
I think because like you were saying, the tactile feeling of using your hands is more fun. Like I said, there's cool minis. There's really interesting like map design.
So the board and a miniature. The cards on phone, because those need to be updated. Like, what else would there need? So this is like really interesting to me.
In theory, you probably could. I mean, Gloomhaven is. They made it into a video game. In theory, you could probably make all these into video game form. But I think the exciting part of playing a board game is putting that screen away. And even though you still have it for some things, let me show these minis here.
I just think bringing our devices that are in our hands can only enhance it. But I don't want to remove. I want to maintain as much. That is fucking sick. I want to maintain as much of that tangibility as possible, because that's why people still play tabletop games in person when they can. And there's a hardcore group, and I'm sure a lot of you, because many of you guys have been playing tabletop games for a long time who listen to us, are like, no, we don't want more phones, put them away. So I totally fucking agree with you.
I'll try to remember to put images of the games I'm talking about, because I mean, like the image, look at the box, that looks sick.
It is really fucking cool.
And the interesting about a lot of these is, just like D&D, they have expansions. Gloomhaven has a pretty big expansion. Apparently you can play Gloomhaven expansion by itself. So it's like a $40 expansion. You could play in theory by itself, maybe get a feel for the game, but you can also add it into your bigger story if you want. Legend of the Dark, I think, has an expansion as well. So this is one that Braxton kind of alluded to a second ago.
Super cool.
It's very cool. I actually saw it on TikTok that my girlfriend sent me, and I looked it up, and it's incredible. So it's called Fall of Magic. If you want to get the scroll, which I'll explain what that is in a second. You want to get the scroll, which I would say you probably would want to because it looks sick as hell. It's $104, but it's completely handmade.
Yeah, this thing is immaculate.
And it's a big scroll. Like I said, I'm trying to remember to put the picture up. If you just want the digital option, it's only $20. So you could just get the digital and play it by it's like that. So I added this in my D&D adjacent because of the improv storytelling component to it. It basically is a collaborative improv tabletop, because you can put it on the table, game that can not only give you inspiration for a D&D world. Like if some of you guys have maybe heard of this, I think it's like technically a game called Microscope, which you could play with your friends before you play D&D, and you're creating the world together, like a collaborative improv experience to create this history of a world, and then you play in that world in D&D. So this is kind of like that. It can not only give you inspiration for your world, but can also give a great way to practice improv with your D&D group. Because not everyone gets into, and we're not all, grade A voice actors that come into D&D super excited for improv. Man. And so you want to be good at improv, but the only way to practice is by playing D&D. So this is another way you could do it. And I'm not explaining the game at all, but it's basically you get this scroll, and there's little coins that come with it, and the story is around the Magus is his name. I know.
Pathfinder Warlock, kind of. The Warlock has been divided into many things in Pathfinder.
It has. But you're basically telling a story around this Magus. Each of you, there's 4 other coins. If you pick a coin that is basically your character, you choose a name, a title, and you go from location to location telling us little story tale about yourself, about the people around you, and you can all jump in, jump off each other. that weaves a tale about this Magus and how they're impacting your world and the story. And the scroll is gigantic. I mean, it just like rolls and rolls and rolls. And there's an opposite side to it. There's expansion cards that add on to it. It looks like so much fun.
It's super unique. And for somebody like myself who's played D&D a lot, trying to visualize how a game can make loose improv not repetitive. Yeah. It's so unique and an interesting challenge. Something that I was really interested in, and this is very D&D adjacent, and it might honestly just kind of be a tabletop game, but there's Print Weaver. Have you heard of this?
I've not.
So it lets you create a class based off of your fingerprints.
Oh.
So if you think about it, you're technically always going to be the same thing. There is a warlock, and I do not want to find out if I am or am not that. I will cry. So I'm sure they have a way to make it more unique, and you can kind of like remove fingers.
Like $20?
It's very cheap. There's a demo actually on it as well, but it's your characters are immortal, caught in a loop of infinite revival. So it's kind of like a roguelike, D10 dice pools. Again, this is less of a board game, but it's still, I'd say like D&D light in that respect to what you were talking about. It was very similar to this. Super, super cool. I love shit like this. Very, very awesome.
And I think no, it's not. But it's at least made or produced by Exalted Funeral. That makes some incredible stuff.
Yeah. And then I think for board games in and of itself, Hues and Cues is a good thing to go into for a game that is super approachable.
Yes.
And really easy to get into.
It's not just like a write-off kind of party game.
No.
Obviously it could be used as a party game, but it's not just a like silly like question kind of party game style.
It highlights a lot of quality control that board games need to go through because there's so much involved in creating them. In this game, Hues and Cues, it's hues as in shades of color. If you look at it, it's just a massive color picker, spectrum sort of hex code looking thing. And you pull a card that has 4 colors on it and the colors on a grid. So like A25 is going to maybe be like a light blue green. Then you have 3 other colors and you pick one of them. Your goal as the person who's picking the color is to say a word first, only one word that is not the color or something obvious about it. So say it was this kind of blue greenish, you could say mint. Those types of color describers are fine. Or you could say maybe it's a dark green, Hulk. Now people will have to guess, which oh my God, fucking broccoli. People will have to guess what they imagine the color you're saying is. Like, what would Ryan think Hulk is? Is it those fists that you find at Walmart that are like a deep, deep dark green? Or is it like one of the Hulks from the comics, which have been, like broccoli stem color kind of light green? So I'm not putting it past you. They're giving you a little bit of salt there, but salt's good for broccoli. Speaking of that, once the players put one of their little doodads on the board where they think the color is going to be, the card bearer color picker is going to give a 2-word phrase to redefine. You are unable to use any words that have ever been used in this session of the game. And again, the previous rules still apply. So in this case, I think he said broccoli trunk or stem or something.
Yeah, broccoli stem.
Broccoli stem. Said, So we went from Hulk, where most people were like, dark green, what? And then he said broccoli stem. We're like, well, that's...
This is also coming from a guy that doesn't eat a lot of broccoli. Yeah. So, I was pulling straws.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it kind of worked. I redefined and got pretty close to it. So from that's when...
got it, but she knows how I think, so it probably doesn't...
That's when our guessing was done. He gets a little 3x3 square where if you're at the center of it, the guesser gets 3 points. If you are inside but against the rim, you get 2. And if you're outside against the perimeter, you get 1 point. Now, I believe it's everybody that's inside, the picker gets X amount of points.
Yes, for everyone that's in, you get 1 point for every person that's inside.
So that's what happens. And
for
then
every thing that's inside.
It rolls around. People get to play at picking and you get points to shift down a very... usable and friendly interface, but there's some quality control issues with it.
There were. It might just be the addition that they had there. Maybe it's been updated.
It's possible, but when you're printing on like a glossy card surface and a printer papery board game surface, color matching is super fucking hard. That's why keycaps and desk mat pairs take forever to come out because color matching them is hard as hell. Colors mix way differently. So it presented an issue. Even though the game was super easy to play, we had to adjust and it made it a bit more complicated because the color on the card
does not match.
Didn't have the exact same shade. So if you're looking just based off of that, you're going to have to redefine by the color code it gives you. So they have the solution built in. It just, you might pick a different color because you're looking at the one on the card. You're going to say Hulk. when the one that is actually on the board is more of a broccoli. So it's interesting, but it was super fun, super quick. Yeah, it's like 2-3 rounds.
Yeah, it's 2 rounds total, so it's very quick.
It can get repetitive, but there's a lot of colors. So,
well, it's just like most party games. It's as repetitive as your group makes it. If you guys are having fun, then hell, go for another couple rounds.
I think they should have reduced the amount of times like a mint green shows up. Not that we picked it a bunch, but that is such a
the card that
it's possible.
Shuffle, yeah.
But that's one of probably the most common colors, seafoam and mint, and people are just going to constantly want to use those words. But
if you didn't figure it out, it's probably not the best game if you're colorblind either.
Oh, hell no. And colorblind options probably wouldn't even work because it's not fun. But
if you're all colorblind, it's a little fun.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. It was super simple and easy to get into.
Only $25.
Only $25, and it's one of those board games you can absolutely smack down on the floor and say, I could just not even tell you what to do, give you a card and tell you, hey, you're guessing, give me a word, and you figure it out.
It fixes because I'm not a huge fan of traditional party games. Think like a Jackbox game. Some of those are really fun, but they also can get repetitive, and sometimes the group you're with is not the most fun. Like the ones where you have to make your own questions or just ask you a bunch of questions. You kind of like bounce out like what's it,
Jackbox?
No, Apples to Apples.
Oh, yeah.
Cards Against Humanity. I've never enjoyed those.
You don't like Cards Against Humanity?
I do not. Maybe I just only play with groups that I don't have the same humor with. I don't know. I've not enjoyed it. And so this solves that for me, though, to be fair, I was also playing with a good group.
But it is similar to that because it's people's opinions.
Yes.
Which Cards Against Humanity, you can metagame.
It's like asking you questions. It's I don't know. There's something different about it that I really enjoyed.
I love Cards Against Humanity with groups who aren't, as long as everybody's in the same clique. Whenever there's somebody who isn't, it kind of gets like inside jokey and hard to do. But I fucking love it.
Or if like one person's really raunchy, everyone else isn't, or vice versa, it can get a little
weird.
If
you do puns or things that like simply make sense, like from a literal perspective, I giggle at that.
There's a lot of puns.
Yeah. Oh my God. We'll see how that goes in the future.
So some other games I got here. Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Woo! That's one of my favorites.
It's $49, so it's
not super balanced. There is an objectively best player character.
Sure, but it's cheap on the scale of board games.
Not super simple, but I would say you definitely can pick it up, and there are easier things to run than others. It's very much like Mario Party. Some of the
you want to describe what it is?
Yeah, and then I'll do that analogy because it'll make sense after they understand what the fucking game is.
Just in case they don't know what it is.
Yeah, go
ahead. So it's basically you're exploring a haunted house cooperatively for a time until somebody in the group is possessed, controlled, yada, yada, yada. And that's when the real escape from the house and things like start amping up begins. That's basically it in a nutshell.
So it's literally like that instance of Mario Party when somebody landed on a red circle and it actually puts them as the 1 player versus 3.
Yeah, 1 versus
and it
but
comes
it's random. You don't know who's gonna affect.
It depends on what thing you stepped on or what happened and what you roll, what items you pick. There's like cursed artifacts that can boost your stats.
You're kind of like a cabin in the woods kind of style.
And it's the hunt. What other game is this? Is the hunt started? It's like Phasmophobia. You can kind of put off the hunt or that event for as long as you want.
Yes.
Until it eventually triggers.
Things kick
I think
off.
There's a certain amount of items that come out. There's characters that have different stats, different amount of movement, health, HP. It's definitely D&D adjacent.
Yeah.
Just like an encounter or dungeon that you run into. But big issue with it is the same Mario Party thing. Some of the hunts are like nigh impossible to win based off how many players you have or just really pitted against it. But I think that's kind of fun because there's multiples of them.
Like this one here, I'll talk about it later. But sometimes it's in pandemic, which I'll talk about later too. Sometimes there are things that just it feels impossible to beat. But that's the drive. Like I can maybe
and the
still
game
do it.
Isn't always that might come up again. You're like, we won't do this one, but maybe you'll beat it one time.
But I like it for the idea of D&D again. I'm trying to tie some of these back to D&D at the very least, that you can get ideas for haunted and spooky houses.
Yeah.
By playing through it.
I don't know. I think people probably find with us having like a tabletop game section, still dungeon crawling,
But even still.
I
think. The other thing I had was really fun ideas on how to control one. Like if an illithid is mind controlling somebody, this is a fun idea to how that would maybe look, or a vampire controlling somebody.
Yeah. It could be good practice for that specifically when your players have to turn on and say, hey, remember when we played Betrayal?
Think about that.
I think it
would be an issue for people that have trust issues and don't want to fight against their friends. That could be a little tough.
Yeah. It'd be a fun time. That is absolutely one of my favorite board games. If you guys haven't played that yet, I would 100% recommend it. Somebody in your college or group, someone's going to have it somewhere. And Tabletop Simulator.
This is true. We've not talked about Tabletop.
Always has every fucking board game in.
Which is probably illegal, but it's on the workshop.
They've got every Yu-Gi-Oh card, every Magic card.
Yeah.
See, the fun about that is it's not random and you can just make max decks whenever you want. But
you can try out the game on there. You can see what you think of it.
You've played a lot more than I haven't played a ton of board games in my life.
Yeah, so I just mentioned it, but Pandemic. This one's $35. I think the only issue with Pandemic now is it might be a little too on the nose for the world that we are currently living in.
Yeah.
But the idea is it's a co-op game. So if you looking for a co-op game, this might be one for you, where you work to eradicate a disease that's sweeping the world. It's fun to build teamwork with people you're playing against because instead of a lot of board games pit you against each other.
Yeah.
So it's fun to work together, and it's pure randomization. So it used to be my favorite board game for a long time. I played it extensively. I didn't bring it because I like these two right now. But they're super fun, super interesting. It can change depending on who you're playing with. Kind of like what you were saying before, there's definitely certain characters that you can pick that are better, but and I'll use this to slide to the next game, Eldritch Horror here. The way I've gotten around that specifically with that game, and wow, I'd probably do with that, is I made a spreadsheet of all the characters and I just roll a dice. So I just get a random character every time I play. Instead of picking, all right, I'm gonna go with this guy every time. Now I think it's a little more fun, a little more.
I always appreciate the effort he puts into stuff like that.
I mean, Eldritch Horror is a little bit more expensive. It's $50.
Let's take a little look at it. I'll hold up to the camera. You guys, we've had these sitting. We've had these. Chaos will be prevented.
Audio listeners, I have 2 board games sitting here in front of us. It's $50. So instead of fighting a disease like in Pandemic, there is also a Call of Cthulhu Pandemic where you're fighting a cult instead of the disease. So here you're fighting the Eldritch Abominations of Lovecraft. You and the rest of the group are trying to stop the awakening of various elder gods. So there's.
Why would we want to stop them?
Because they're gonna awaken and kill everybody.
Sounds like a good time.
Oh Jesus.
Warlock shit.
But there's Cthulhu's in there, Shabdingraut's in there.
Azathoth is my favorite.
Azathoth is in there.
But he's sleeping, man. He's sleeping.
Not for long.
Oh shit.
And then there's a bunch of expansions to add a bunch of stuff. I don't really want to get the expansions because they look like a lot of fun. But this gives me lots of the writing in here is incredible. I love playing it just because the writing just hits my fancy.
Does it ever lose its luster because you've read it so many times?
It has not yet.
Damn.
For me, we've had a couple cards that come up because they're events that happen, and we've had the couple of same events. But the way my girlfriend and I are reading it, we're getting into
it's just you two.
Role play. We've only two to play it so far. Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun to play with more friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's super interesting because you can I like role playing the characters that I have, and there's one guy in there that to sanity and health, of course, it's a Lovecraft.
Yeah,
you gotta have some sanity in there, and you can cast spells, and obviously if you're casting spells, you're dipping a little bit into the Cthulhu lore, so you start
risky
losing some
magic.
sanity. Yeah,
yes.
But I always like amassing as much spells as possible. So there's this certain guy he gets benefits from more spells, and you get artifacts that have more spells in it. But I was slowly start losing my mind in the game because of the amount of things I'm amassing. I was like, this makes perfect sense. And then obviously I went insane and ended up dying that way. But I was like, this makes perfect sense. He would do this. So it's fun kind of getting into the role of the character for that.
It's good practice. Whenever somebody gives me a character defined with clear descriptors, I have a much easier time.
The writing for the characters is amazing. We don't do it anymore, but when we first played, my girlfriend and I, we would read the biography every time we started because they kind of get into the mindset of it. But now we know the characters.
How many are there?
I think there was 12.
That's a decent chunk.
But the expansion adds a bunch more.
Damn.
And I don't have the expansion that adds the investigator. But this one has 8 expansions to it. There's a bunch.
So if you're prepping an Eldritch Horror D&D campaign and you want to try to get your players to understand, or at least try to roleplay without fully needing to find the motivation on their own, could be a good way to do it.
And the gameplay's pretty simple to get into. Like most board games that have a pretty expansive board. It seems like there's a lot of stuff, but if you break it down, you can get going pretty quick. So the other one I have here, Guildmaster. This one's $49.
Okay.
I imagine it's probably usually 50, but Amazon had it at 49. This one, fun fact, I actually found because a streamer that I watch, his brother designed it. And
shit.
They play tested it on stream a couple of times together. That was super cool. I was like, this looks like a lot of fun. It's a 4-person game total. That's as much as it can do. But you can do 2 to 4. You gotta have someone to play against. It's a cooperative, not cooperative, a competitive game.
Oh shit.
Where 4 people control a different guild fighting for the most amount of fame. So you hire adventurers, you build nicer bars, complete contracts on your quest to become more famous than your friends. And it's super fun. There's a lot of different intricacies that you can do. There's like no writing in there. So if you're looking for writing, then I guess Elder Tour would be more your shtick. But Guildmaster is super fun because of the amount of different strategies you can implement too. Like we played this with, my girlfriend and I played this with 2 of our players they came over for like a ladies' night. They wanted to play a board game.
Nice.
So we ended up playing this, and one of the players, you could probably guess who, decided just to amass a bunch of gold instead of actually like playing the game. And she ended up winning because that was her strategy. That's actually a fair strategy in the game, is just amassing money, and you get a lot of fame for just having cash. And I'd never thought about it. I was like, okay. But there's so many different ways you can do it. It's super fun.
Ryan's not money motivated, guys.
No, I spent a lot of my cash trying to get other stuff.
That's amazing.
This one, I don't think you've definitely not played it, but you've heard Kenneth talk about it extensively. At least I have.
So it was
in the last few
Catan?
days. No, but that's
that game is,
good
man.
I played that Catan in my economics class against if you beat our teacher, he gave you extra credit. That was the thing.
Would need a good bit to fully understand that game before I jumped in. I hate learning board games as I go.
think so. The interesting about Catan, I think it's so the one I'm about to talk about is have you played Risk?
Yeah.
Okay, so Catan, I would say is like here. Small World probably goes to like a little bit above Catan. Then I'd say Risk is here. I'm saying.
Wait, Catan's easier to learn than Small World?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Wow.
I'd say. I mean, I learned it as a middle schooler. No, high schooler. Sorry, I was high schooler.
Damn.
That was our economics class.
Shit.
And then, no, I probably didn't know the intricacies. I was, like 12, 13. I did not beat my teacher.
Yeah, I give yourself more credit for being smart as a 12-year-old.
But then I would say this one is Scythe. You remember Kenneth talking about Scythe?
Scythe. I feel like he's probably mentioned it before. It's not ringing bells.
He tried to play it with Jamie, and she gave up before he really wanted to get into it.
I probably would have too.
It's very complex, yet from my understanding, and the more I read about it, the more I texted Ken. I was like, I gotta play this game. It looks like a blast. You can get into it. It looks very rewarding. You build up an army and territory, very Risk stuff. Yeah. So it's very strategic like Risk, but I would say it's like to the extreme. It takes it an extra level.
That's a good shout out.
It's apparently very popular, very famous. Like I said, Kenneth had talked about it a bunch, and I'm very hooked. I would love to play it sometime. It also has some expansion. Scythe, yeah. And the world building and the lore looks really cool. I would love to steal some of it just to read and dive into it.
Scythe board game.
Yeah, pull that up.
60. Oh, there's got some varying prices. Basically like $62.
Yeah, so the price I'm grabbing is the price I found on
85 on theirs
and stuff. Yeah.
On their website, it's 85. Yeah, on theirs, okay. Apparently, it is down from 100 to 85, and if you're a member, you get it for 68 on Stonemeyer Games.
Oh, look at that.
And it comes with a bundle for coins, like the actual currency in the game. This thing looks really cool.
It looks very cool.
Damn.
Okay, and I mean, for that price point, again, that's cheap on the scale of expansive board games.
Maybe it just visually looks very similar, but I feel like I've seen this. Oh, Secret Hitler's always fun. Hey, simple game.
That's my next one on my list.
Is it? I love that game.
I think you saw my notes over here.
I did not actually.
Secret Hitler's only $35.
It can be a bit complicated. There's like one portion of the rules that gets a little weird. Some people might forget that they're not supposed to out that they are helping Hitler secretly. Basically, there's a person that's going to draw a card or something.
Played it here, didn't we?
I think we have once. It was ages ago.
It was a while ago. I'm pretty sure we played it.
Somebody is Hitler when they started a thing, and somebody else will be Hitler's helper, but they won't tell, though Hitler knows you're his helper, but you don't know who Hitler is, and you're trying to desperately help him.
Hitler as like a noun that we are being Hitler.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a whodunit sort of thing. Very Among Us style.
Yeah, I think it's only fun if the person that's Hitler is like really making moves. Because I've played it with people that are not like doing anything.
I fucking go
Hitler
crazy.
Doesn't do, and it's just nothing happens.
Yeah.
And the loyalists win I remember the ones that are not Hitler win pretty easily because the Hitler guy doesn't push anything.
Something like it's some left wing group.
I can't
thing like
remember
that. But yeah, it's a ton of fun.
It's like a werewolf one that's kind of similar to that too.
Yeah, it's those imposter games. Like it's Among Us. It's literally
someone in there that should not be, and it's causing strife.
I'm impressed that Among Us has probably got a board game creation thing already.
I think just because their team's really small, probably not.
Part of the fun of people have approached it. Part of the fun of Among Us for others is the liveness of it rather than having to take turns. I imagine so. If they can figure that out, wouldn't be surprised. There has to be one.
They probably can't do it because there's another game that already exists called Among Us as a board game.
Oh shit, Among Us the board game.
yeah, they could add
that will make it better. Honestly, other games I've played, I think that's about the extent of.
Yeah, that's why I think we'll probably sequel this some way because most of the games I have on this list I've not played. Scythe I haven't played. Betrayal House of the Hill I've only played a little bit.
Super fun.
All the D&D adjacent ones I mentioned, never touched them. So a lot of these I want to play so bad.
Betrayal House of the Hill is literally it's not random dungeon generated, but it is a dungeon generator. Essentially, like you guys are running around. It's more Cthulhu-like. Resources are limited, kind of survival horror. I know that's a hot topic. What is survival horror? It's not just inventory management. Okay.
He's got his hands up.
There's some spicy takes on that. Yeah, it's a really good game.
The classic ones, like we mentioned, Monopoly, Trouble.
Yeah. Sorry. There's another game that's similar to Sorry with just like dice, like not dice, a circular little boy. It's basically the same fucking game, but it's a lot of fun.
The other one I had here was called Terraforming Mars. It's interesting. A lot of these have like Pandemic, Terraforming Mars, and Gloomhaven. I want to say Betrayal does as well. Have like video game adaptions, so you could try to play those on like Steam and stuff. But Terraforming Mars seems really interesting to me. It's only $38, so again, pretty cheap on board game standards. You play as a corporation working to terraform Mars, which you work together with the rest of the group on. But as you're all competing corporations, only one can truly gain the credit for advancing the human race. So you're all working together to create Mars into a place that we can live on, but one of you has to become the most famous.
You know that shit's actually happening right now.
100%. And it seems super fascinating, incredible. If the gameplay seems really interesting, I just read a bunch about it. I don't really know anything else, but it looks really cool. I'd love to play it sometime.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So board games, I think it's a good way to take a break from D&D if your group is starting to dwindle and not be able to get together. It's like, hey guys, I know we are really waiting on our character arcs or this specific dungeon and whatnot. I'm a little overwhelmed.
Or even between campaigns.
Yeah, I want to keep meeting and have a bit of consistency here. I've got some similar D&D games I found from the Dungeon Crawl podcast because Ryan had a massive list of it and it was super helpful. Let's try playing Betrayal. It's a little complicated, but once we get it, it could always be something we've got in our back pocket so that we don't just get separated and not have our sessions ever again because that happens a lot.
Yes.
Which is fine. So keep these in your little back pocket. Or
I was looking up some other classic ones I forgot about. Guess Who? You remember that one?
Yeah.
Guess Who? I think it make it kind of fun just to get ideas on how to describe, if you're the DM, how to describe characters for your players. So
please don't buy the old Guess Who. It is a little racist.
Yes, I'm sure there's some newer ones. Yahtzee. I've never really enjoyed Yahtzee. We got Parcheesi here.
I fucking love Yahtzee. Oh my god.
Yeah, you like Yahtzee?
Yes.
Oh, checkers. I mean, checkers and chess, of course. I guess those count. Trouble, Taboo, Clue. Oh, Clue's a
good one.
Clue is a good one.
It was a very good one.
But it's interesting looking at these, and because a lot of the ones I listed and you talked about too are ones that were made in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years at most.
They're board games. It's an old medium.
I mean, they've come a long way because these old ones. I mean, if you play Clue and then you play Eldritch Horror or Betrayal of the House, I mean, it's interesting because in theory, you would think there's only so much you can do with this, but the out of the box ideas that some of these people have is crazy to me.
Well, keep it in the box. They got to get to the people somehow.
Yeah, good point. But it's I can't imagine being a board game developer because that's got to be.
It's pretty scary. You get the shit out there and then you find out there's a massive issue that none of your QA people noticed.
Yeah, because there's limitations. So you got to fit it inside.
But that begets creativity, like always.
True, it breeds creativity. But I mean, man, it's tough. That's why I think a lot of these get to be $80 because they're like, okay, we want to include these miniatures, we want to include these things that are expensive to make. But if we don't have those, for example, the Dark Souls and Bloodborne one, people that play those have likely played the video game. So we got to have miniatures and things that represent those monsters that they fought in the game. And those are not cheap to make. So we got to have that plus this. And I don't fault board games for being expensive. I just think that's a big barrier to entry to play a lot of these.
It is,
but so is D&D. I guess the books are $60 a pop.
Just like the housing market, find a roommate, get them to split the price with you. Ownership issues might become a problem. Who keeps it? Where is it going to sit? Well, where do you guys most often meet up? Don't worry, if you pay a portion of the price, hopefully they're a good friend. You can take it whenever you want, that sort of thing. But that's put into the price. I imagine when people make it, it's like, well, how many players can we have? Now, some of them are probably kids, but if for Elder Tour is 1 to 8 players, we really want to make. How much is Elder Tour?
Elder Tour was $50.
$50. That's really cheap for a board game.
I got it at a used bookstore plus an expansion in there for like $20.
Keep your local game stores alive.
Yeah, always check used game or bookstores because they likely have board games for much. I mean, you're gambling if they have all the pieces.
I was about to say, please make sure you have a list of how many pieces, what's in there.
The night I bought that, I spent the whole night making sure I had everything. It did. And it's tough to tell that if you never played the game before.
Hopefully, if it's a trusted game store, they checked it out.
Yes.
But it can be hard to.
I'd say always check that. If you're worried about the price, either look around for like these D&D or not these D&D, it's like tabletop game taverns that exist, or look for like a used bookstore that might have it for cheaper.
There you go. So yeah, thanks for dungeon crawling through on like all this shit.
It's the first episode in a long series, I would imagine, in the future of board games where we play new ones and try new stuff out.
We are like a booty hairs away from. Yeah, you say that phrase all the time. You say it worse. You say ass hair.
That's true. I do say ass hair.
These mics, the things that you're listening to right now, hopefully sounds pretty good, are going to be what we use for the live play. This is what we were waiting on. It cuts out a lot of the room echo. So for me personally, I think I'm okay starting. So what's going to happen is we're going to get me, Kenneth, and Jamie sitting at the back of a table. Ryan's got the same mic. It makes things so much more streamlined. Quite literally, we're good to go now. So it is going to be, and I've made this statement many times, so you don't need to believe it.
Believe it when it happens.
Believe it when it happens. But the roadblocker we had previously, which was audio quality, is now gone. We bought 4 of these little boys. So once we get that all set up, we'll let you guys know.
Should be
right now.
Hopefully this month.
Is all of Chronicles still up, or is it?
I don't think it's on our YouTube, of course.
Yes.
But I don't think you can find it on like Spotify and whatnot.
Yes. I imagine that the RP, the experience, and a bunch of everything is going to be just a straight level up from what we had originally with the practice we've got. And I was still like suffering from hardcore ADHD. It would be interesting to see how I DM while on medication. So it'll be fun. But I'm going to try to put as much effort as I can into not give a Critical Role experience, but just to make it more fun to listen and less ad nauseum and have a lot of fun because Kenneth and Jamie are great players. Ryan's a great DM. It's going to be a blast.
So he's the limitation, apparently.
I do feel like it sometimes.
You're not the limit. You do some really good RP.
I get zoned out like sometimes. I'm off and on. It's up and down.
But I think it'll be different because there's only 3 players. So if you zone out, then there's only 2 people paying attention. So I imagine it
should be good. I had a lot of fun during the main session.
You have some intense sad moments in our campaigns. So
but that's because I'm playing characters that are basically me. I want to figure out something that doesn't fall back into that.
And we've had episodes to go listen to.
We have.
I think the best way to do that is to still find something to connect with as as an individual, but but it's tough to like not fall back on that one thing all the time.
I need to figure out some sort of like pre-ritual. Whether it's like watching a show, I need like if I can anticipate what's happening in the session, watch or listen to music that feels that way. And
you'd make a playlist for your character.
Yeah, I don't remember song names, and I listen to the same music over and over, so it's always tough. But I have a very, very good friend of mine who've been talking to a lot of that would possibly be able to help me with that. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to make sure I can give my all because people bounce off of each other's energy. But bounce off of our social media. That is at Dungeon Crawl Pod, both on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram usually is where we get some of our like, hey, we're taking pictures. Here's
we posted one on our Twitter. I did not post on Instagram because I forgot that exists.
Oh shit, sorry.
I posted it on Twitter and on our Discord.
Instagram's great, but I feel like we should just like leave it here and say, hey, this is our archive stuff. We might use this, but it's not super big. Twitter,
I always forget.
So much easier to use. Discord, we have that. I mentioned it earlier today. A lot of our games are on hiatus. We don't have any going on right now, but if you feel like jumping in and reviving that a bit.
Yeah, and we don't show our home game there anymore because it's just too difficult to get it
It's too difficult to set up. The reason we had the availability to do it is now pretty much gone, so we don't have the setup anymore.
Yeah, we decide to turn that into a podcast at some point in our life, but probably not.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. For the Discord, if you ever feel like jumping in and chatting, I'm trying slowly to reintroduce like a bunch of effort back in my live habits. So once I get that, the Discord itself should be a little bit more popping. I would love to run simple one shots soon to get my little DM chops a little kicked back up again. So if you like jumping in, I imagine sometime in the future there may be some sort of payment structure if you want, where Brian and I create experiences for people to play. I don't know.
Yeah, we thought this a while ago.
I don't want to do it on the Patreon because it's too disconnected. I want to wait for the possibility of what Discord has newly announced with like Bao and Marquez Brownlee with their creator monetization stuff on platform. So it'd be super interesting to see where that goes because it would be much easier to just say, hey, join our Discord.
Right. Because we talked about doing that when we did the Oni episode. God knows how long ago we were going to make it. I was thinking about making an adventure with
ages ago.
And I just got swamped.
Yeah, it's easy to get swamped. So get in there, give us a little bit of motivation because both me and Ryan get swamped, even if there isn't a ton to get swamped about because things are overwhelming, anxiety and all that sort of shit.
Once my classes are like next semester, I think.
You done?
No. Oh, I'm like in midterms in the semester, right? In the summer semester. So, but hopefully once I'm done with school, obviously I'm working counseling, but for some reason school always seems more work to me than actually like working.
It is. It's not a good.
It's like when I worked at the hospital, it was so much. I could just go and do my thing. Then I come home and
It's consistency. The way school does homework is just not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
At all. But we have an email as well, thedungeoncrawlpod@gmail.com. I don't know. Maybe if you're a board game manufacturer and you saw this and you want us to test something out, we're still very new. We don't want to be a beta-only exposure and that sort of shit. Likewise to you. So even if you don't have too much money to offer, we'd love to help out. If so, if you feel like helping us, we do get a little bit of viewership.
Especially now that we have this, we could play it right here.
Yeah.
Record ourselves doing it.
I don't know if you get notified if we've used your ad or put your ad on our podcast, but I hope those haven't been too obtuse for you guys. If anybody out there thinks a third one wouldn't be too crazy, I don't want to do that. We don't have to because we're not like dying for money, but it's not an insignificant amount, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And I don't hate how it gets included.
And it's super easy.
Yeah, it's I hope you please let us know if it bothers you.
Yes, because we will take it out immediately.
We can lower it to 1 or
remove it or do whatever the hell. And then I think that's pretty much it. Go follow Dungeon Crawl Network on Twitch.
Yes,
that's our Twitch.
I think we're thinking about maybe doing it on YouTube as well, but I've not looked into that deeper.
We can dual stream until we get affiliate.
Yes, if we want to even get affiliate.
Now we might have to do YouTube if my throttling is too bad.
Oh God,
I was doing it for YouTube. It was really bad today.
God.
Even lower to like 30 FPS.
This is definitely not needed to talk about on the podcast, but you could, but you could also use the Restream program and use that to then output that to Twitch. You're outputting to Restream, the Restream outputs it. So I wonder if that would get around
interesting.
A throttle.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, and they never call me back, and it's like the third time I've done it. So that sucks. Doesn't affect much else, and it hadn't happened until recently, but I'm going to move next year. So
yeah,
I'll stick it out.
Make sure you rate us 5 stars on the podcast.
Get
it really helps us out a lot. Get on that link tree.
Love the link tree so much.
Rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Help, you know what?
Yeah.
Just rate us 5 stars on any platform.
Whatever you're using, whatever you got the average for.
Because it really helps out the podcast. And I lost my train of thought. I don't. Please, I said it earlier, but please, I love looking up new board games and I have to do this research. There's so many out there I want to play. So please leave a comment below. Type in your favorite board game. That's not D&D or Pathfinder, please.
Yeah.
Something that's not either of those. And tell us why it's your favorite. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah. Jump in the Discord too if you feel like doing that and drop it in the introductions or YouTube because that's good for those.
Or the listener comments.
Super great. There was something else I wanted to say, but I'm not too sure. These are the new mics. I know they aren't Shure SM7B, which is what I was using, and his mic, which is like a bigger version of these guys. I was comparing, but these.
I use the Rode Procaster. This is the Rode Pod mic.
Okay.
Basically the same thing. Just
do sound good, and I like that it is a consistent mic between the two of us. It makes editing a lot easier. So we'll see you guys at some other point. He's been Ryan.
He's been Braxton.
It's Dungeon Crawl. Next week,
it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
I threw a couple ideas in our.
Oh hell Notion,
yeah! So
shout out to Notion. I've heard Obsidian's pretty good, but we already dived into Notion.
No, screw Obsidian. I can't mine through it in Minecraft.
So you don't like Obsidian? Oh shit! God damn it! I'm gonna go.
No, Bedrock's what I can't mine through.
I'm gonna go put Ryan to Bedrock.
Obsidian makes you bury him underneath that.
Let's go listen to what this sounds like. Huh?
Yeah, see you guys.
Hope you liked it. This is fun. If you like board games,
go play them.
Go play them. Don't be